about movie Beatdown. Recently I've had a lot of requests lately to do a spoof film called 30 Days of Paranormal Activity with the devil inside the girl with the dragon tattoo. But I don't even need to see or cover that movie because I've already had the misfortune of watching a spoof from the same director. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Breaking Wind Part 1. Yes, I'm reviewing a film where even the title card farts twice. Somehow I think that says it all, and yet I'll still elaborate, because obviously I'm a bit of a masochist. You may recall a while back I reviewed Epic Movie, and by extension every one of the Friedberg and Seltzer spoof movies because they're the same damn movie each time, which was basically a bunch of pop culture references and lazy, nasty slapstick masquerading as something even in the same vicinity as satire. But if you thought the spoof subgenre couldn't sink any lower, you thought wrong. Meet Craig Moss. You might not know him by name, but you'll have heard of his work. He's the man responsible for the 41-year-old virgin who knocked up Sarah Marshall and felt super bad about it, a send-up of Judd Apatow's comedies. The reason I bring up Seltzerberg is that seemed very inspired by their Date movie, which copied wholesale scenes from its targets, but with infinitely worse punchlines that make you realise how good the original films were. Moss's 41-year-old virgin got funded off the back of a truly abysmal trailer on YouTube, and that seems to have validated Moss's sense of humour since he's taken up where Seltzerberg left off and does many of the same things that they do, but much, much worse. Moss certainly has the mentality of a YouTuber since the only notable non-spoof movies he's done is the Badass series, which itself is loosely inspired off the Awesome Beard Guy video. Since then, Moss has almost exclusively worked on TV movie thrillers for Lifetime and the like. And making a spoof these days is pretty much like making a YouTube video. Pick a topical target, add terrible jokes about it, make it for almost nothing, and then just watch the money roll in. So it's not a surprise that he picked the most obvious and easiest target of them all, Twilight. There's a reason why you will never ever see me review Twilight. Everyone and their mum has made fun of it. There is precisely no insight that can be further gleaned from yet another flogging of a horse so dead it's already been to the glue factory. It has been done to death in endless articles, analyses, skits and sketches, and if you didn't know that, I'd like to kindly congratulate you on awakening from your recent coma. It's such an obvious trend that Seltzerberg themselves covered it in the Woeful Vampires Suck, and it was already old then in 2010. Of course, it has still made money because the target attracts both the series' devoted fans and the haters who will gladly ignore the previous credentials of who made the damn thing. Hell, Moss himself actually gave it an aside in the 41-year-old virgin, which Eric Callero appeared as Edward in, a role he reprises for this movie, and where I suspect probably the idea to do a feature-length Twilight parody stems from. Like Seltzerberg before him, this is the first and last time I'll review one of his spoof films. Not out of mercy for Craig Moss, but more for myself, because I really don't think I could sit through another one of his dreadful spoofs ever again. And unfortunately for him, that leaves no mercy for this abomination. The film starts out with a copy of the opening scene from Eclipse, with Ronald taking the place of Riley from the original who is attacked. Who's there? Because bad continuity and generally inept filmmaking are apparently hilarious in the context of a spoof, even though the reason those things are funny is because they usually happen by accident, not by design. And if that was meant to be a gag about how everyone takes their shirt off, maybe we should have saved that for a scene with the werewolves, where that would have actually made sense. Oh, for some reason he gains a tattoo, a reference to The Hangover Part 2, I think? And soon after he's bitten on the arse.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So sorry!
It's exactly 95 seconds into the film when we get our first fart joke, and it sure as shit won't be the last. In fact, I'll be keeping count of exactly how many there are. So remember, when you hear a fart joke, that's the sound of creative bankruptcy. Alas, this counter does not extend to every gag about fecal matter because that would mean counting half the damn jokes.
Marry me.
Change me. Seriously, change me. I I think I just soiled my pants.
Don't you see, movie? You could have taken the high road. You could have made a joke about why the hell doesn't Edward change her, considering it would make things much easier for the both of them. But nope, you made a joke about someone shitting themselves. Truly, this is a film of intelligence and wit. I don't need to tell you that this is Bella and Edward, played by Heather Ann Davis and the aforementioned Callero. What I do need to tell you is that this is Bella's nan, who then suddenly starts going down on Edward. But if you thought that was puerile and crass, don't worry, it was all a dream, leading up to her gran reappearing yet again, but now Edward's banging her. Basically, the film's humour relies on the three R's: fart, fucking, and more fucking farting! To say the humour's beyond juvenile is an insult to the imaginations of horny 12-year-olds everywhere. Personally, this movie's only 4 minutes in, and already I wanted to F off. That was another dream, which allows them to lazily reuse the same footage rather than reshoot it slightly, and speaks with her father Charlie, played by Flip Schultz, doing a wildly broad version of Billy Burke, where the dialogue isn't just similar to the scene from Eclipse, it's exactly the damn same. As I've said before, parody does not give you license to plagiarise without any kind of creativity or comment. Hot Shots might have been making fun of Top Gun, but that doesn't mean they literally cribbed whole exchanges from it. But again, that's far too much sophistication to ask from people who think a sex act on the bottom of a letter, two sex acts at the bottom of a letter, are funny without any kind of context. Bella is about to drive to Jacob, but Edward appears in the car. That's a scene that's ripe for parody.
Going to the reservation?
I'm going to the cheese store.
That's some sexy cheese.
She has breasts and scene. Seriously, what is the point of this bit? It doesn't even have gratuitous nudity going for it, so what the hell's it doing in the movie? This scene could have directly referenced how stalky and possessive Edward is. It's right there in the original scene, staring at you in the face. Come on, guys, this isn't even difficult. You have to be trying to screw up this badly. The film then gracelessly moves into a running TMZ parody called ZMZ. Yeah, I have no idea what the first Z stands for either, complete with a scene that probably eerily resembles this film's writing meetings.
He's so dropping his nuts in her mouth.
As opposed to dropping them on her chest.
Oh, wouldn't that make them chestnuts?
The idea of satirising celebrity media culture, particularly the Patterson Stewart coupling, is one of the few pieces of something resembling invention, and is relatively on target. That is until they turn it into a teabagging joke, smothering what little brain activity there is. And there's another tiny poke at the merchandising of Twilight. Careful, you're getting dangerously close to real satire, you'll give yourself a hernia. So let's rectify that right away.
Aww, who are they?
The little colons. They're little versions of us.
You can always tell when a comedy's run out of steam when they bring on the little people. It's funny because they're short. Let's see, how long did that take? 9 minutes? They hit the little person button that early? I'm only this far in? Fuck me, this is going to be a long review. As you've probably already noticed, the film's not actually a parody of Twilight in general or Breaking Dawn, because that would make far too much bloody sense. It's a specific parody of Eclipse. Words cannot describe how dumb this decision is. For a start, Eclipse is a thuddingly tedious middle chapter in the franchise, where the vast majority of the running time is boring arguing between the aggressively obsessive Edward and the passive-aggressive Jacob over who gets their prize, which apparently has the name of Bella, and lots of setup for Breaking Dawn. Oh, and a token fight scene that ends in about 2 minutes. Not exactly fantastic material for a spoof, so why the hell are you using it as your main structure? It's a bit like doing a Lord of the Rings spoof, but then only doing the 2 towers. There's no context to the jokes, especially if you've never seen the original movie. Are you telling me the filmmakers are so lazy they couldn't be bothered to write any setup? Hell, even Vampires Suck got this right because it does both Twilight and New Moon at the same time. If they didn't want to cover the same ground as Vampires Suck, not that it covered it that well, then they could have looked at a Wikipedia synopsis of Breaking Dawn and actually had a go at spoofing the more than ample material there. Or cherry pick moments and work them into something resembling a narrative, something which, again, even Seltzerberg managed to grasp the concept of. And yes, for the record, I did watch both Eclipse and Vampires Suck purely for the purposes of researching this review. The things I do for your entertainment. We then come to Jacob, played by Frank Pacheco. And he's fat! What a hysterical inverse of the ripped abs! The exchange between them features more verbatim dialogue, including a reference to Victoria's vision, which didn't happen in this version. Did you literally hit copy and paste? In fact, we get a whole parade of man boobage.
No thanks.
That's just fucking rank! To even term that as being a joke is an offence against humour the world over. Frank Pacheco's performance as Jacob is incredibly unyieldingly smug and obnoxious, and he's a grating presence, especially since the film forces him to oversell every single tiresome gag that wasn't even funny in the first place.
Imprinting is when you see her. I just imprinted in my pants.
Oh, they didn't go for a fart joke there, they went for a cum joke instead. Does that even count as variation? A gross out gag is a gross out gag. And watching Breaking Wind is a bit like staring down an unflushed public toilet for an hour. Just like in the Source film, Ronald sneaks into Bella's house whilst she's out, which Edward senses, forcing them to go to his family for help. Sneak a fart in there? You know, you can't let a scene go by without a joke sometimes. In fact, we'd probably thank you for such a thing. Of course, all the stuff about vampire and werewolf scents gets eye-rollingly sent up as fart smells. Oh, and I should also mention that Edward's family name is Colon as opposed to Cullen because I don't think you feel my pain enough. And if I'm sounding repetitive, then that's only because the movie itself is. It's so preoccupied with bum holes and fecal matter, it's like the work of a demented scat fetishist. With Edward and Jacob forced to work together to protect Bella, the film also notes the bromantic undertones of their rivalry in the most on-the-nose way you could possibly think of.
You know what? From now on, I'm Switzerland, okay?
By Switzerland, you mean large vagina?
Congratulations, Breaking Wind! You took a scene that was humorous in the original film and then made it unfunny by adding a line that doesn't even make sense. When the spoof is less funny than the film it's based on, you're doing it wrong! Jacob takes Bella to see his clan, and it's here where we get the one-scene appearance of Danny Trejo as his father, which was obviously done as a favour to the director for Badass, and whilst the movie has remained relatively on point, it's here where the movie suddenly goes all reference crazy in true Seltzerberg fashion as he recounts their past.
We completely killed it. Blockbuster franchise and the amusement ride. They lived in fear that the cold man was not alone. There was a herd of them. Different characters played the exact same way.
Really? You're gonna do a bunch of Johnny Depp parodies? Timely! And something not at all copied from Seltzerberg! And you're honestly arguing that Johnny Depp plays his characters the exact same way each time? Oh yeah, because it's Edward Scissorhands, he was virtually identical to Jack Sparrow! Oh, and one last thing, what the hell does this have to do with Twilight? And if that wasn't inexplicable enough, the barrage also includes Mark Epstein, whoever he is, Angry Birds, and a Na'vi from Avatar for no fathomable reason whatsoever.
Something terrible is coming. Oh. Excuse me a minute.
He just sharded himself.
It says something that over the many films that Danny Trejo has appeared in, and the numerous indignities that he suffered without losing a shred of his badass credit, even he's defeated by having to shit himself on camera. You did it, movie. You actually made me feel sorry and ashamed for Danny Trejo. Congratulations if you managed to make it this far. Don't worry, you've not missed much, only more jokes about dick sizes and sex.
Police are baffled by the escalating murders, disappearances, and how Brendan Fraser keeps getting work.
Newborns. Noobs.
That's when we're at our most uncontrollable. And we have this weird OCD thing where we have to count all the time.
One testy.
Who wants to bet that when we actually see newborns later in the film, they won't have to be counting, so that unfunny gag won't even make sense? And seriously, noobs, how long did that take you to come up with? 1/10 of a second? Another element that skirts dangerously close to actual parody is the animosity between Bella and Rosaline is amped up here so that there's a running gag where she repeatedly tries to kill her.
Don't you ever die, bitch! I'm sorry, she's just so effing annoying.
Oh, thank goodness.
Mostly, however, it just seems like an excuse to beat the shit out of Bella and watch her bleed and suffer. Okay, that's kind of what people want to do when they watch Twilight, but even Seltzerbergs' casual violence wasn't nearly this cruel and bitter. That leads into a gag where Bella has to be patched up by Carlisle, which makes a mildly amusing joke about how the vampires can't control their thirst. And then they overdo it, and then they really overdo it, much akin to sucking a patient dry, actually. The problem is a lack of restraint, not just with the content of the gags, but the execution of them as well. Each of them is dragged out way longer than necessary, and it makes the terrible ones even worse, and it also snuffs out the few half-decent ones as well. Then it's a Paranormal Activity parody. Craig, save that for your next movie. And oh great, it's another scene with little Edward where he humps her leg. Well, that was degrading and pointless for everyone involved. And like the film it's based on, things have got very dull because they're continually clueless about what they should be actually doing. Take Jacob, you could really mind the fact that he plays Mr. Nice Guy basically so he can have a shot in her pants and how he's equally manipulative. Or he could have a 12-inch cock, whatever works. Or fart again after giving her a piece of cake, which I kid you not, is a plot point. During the graduation party, Alice gets a vision of the noobs picking up Bella's scent from, you guessed it, a stolen porn mag. The gags here are so low it's like a fecking limbo contest.
What did you see? They're coming here.
Sorry. Imprint.
You actually did a joke about ejaculating just because she said the word coming? It's like a little child discovering a naughty word for the first time. And I'm pretty sure the guy who directed this is at least in his 30s. There's more gags about Jacob masking Bella's scent because that was a plot point in Eclipse, and since Fat Jacob is on screen, we get to have yet more fart noises.
3, 2, 2, 1.
You know what? At least the title is accurate. If you're paid to see a movie called Breaking Wind, at least you get what you're sodding well paid for.
Why didn't you ever get married after Mom?
Actually, I almost did, sweetheart. His name was Frank. We'd go antiquing, take the Sky Tram. Sky Tram is when I get nude and stand on the bed, and he lies on the floor, and if he shoots a load and I catch it in my mouth, we both yell out, Sky Tram!
It says something that even by the low standards of everything else in this film, this is still the worst gag in it, bar none. And the idea that Bella's dad's extremely sexually repressed is not exactly a new idea, given that Vampires Suck also did a gag about him having a relationship with a blow-up doll. I wouldn't say Moss copied it, but it certainly seems very similar. Oh, and they actually bring out 2 nude people who aren't actually new in the open map version, so obviously they have some standards. Funnily enough, I was actually glad whenever Billy Burke turned up in Twilight, because he always made them that much more tolerable. Whereas here, I can't wait for Flip Shorts to leave my screen and never reappear. Sex is always on this movie's mind, as you likely know by this point, but even more so during this section, because we follow by parodying Bella's attempt to get with Edward and how they can't have sex, by having a racist joke where Bella dresses him up like a rapper because she likes black guys. Wait, what? Later on, Bella takes off her clothes, revealing that she's wearing sexy underwear underneath. I'm getting a sneaking feeling of deja vu about this. Oh, that's right, because they did the same goddamn joke in Vampires Suck. You're actually copying a joke from Friedberg and Seltzer, and I don't know if that's coincidental laziness from both parties, or this is the greatest example of hackery I've ever seen. And you know what's infuriating about the constant non-stop sex jokes? None of them will ever be as funny as if they went for the much juicier means of the abstinence theme and the constant longing looks. Instead, we have a film with so many jokes about fucking, I'm pretty sure I've caught an STD just by watching it.
Don't underestimate them, Ronald. You'll have the numbers.
According to your friend.
Yes, Gary Coleman. He found out about the things they could do, so they killed him.
You know, it kind of defeats the purpose of making a satire on celebrity media when you're part of the exact same culture, given you just made topical jokes on Lindsay Lohan, Brendan Fraser and Gary Coleman, which will date the movie instantly. What bodily function haven't we got to yet? Oh yes, menstrual blood. I think we got every orifice covered now.
And now, oh my god. That's one.
Oh, Jesus, is that really necessary?
But naturally, there's one orifice clearly the filmmakers never get tired of, even if we do. So as the noobs appear out of the lake after Bella wearing their swimming aids, which is actually a genuinely clever visual gag, it's instantly negated by more flatulence as Jacob takes Bella to a safe tent on high ground in the mountains. This naturally brings us to a version of the bit where Bella's freezing to death as a snowstorm passes over. This is already a pretty humorous scene in the original film, one which they also lampshaded quite heavily, so this should be shooting fish in a barrel for anyone with an iota of intelligence.
Keep it clean.
Really, really clean.
I gotta say, Jacob, I mean, your intentions seem to be in the right place. I'd like to start over with you. What do you say?
Oh, fuck you, movie! Are you seriously getting me to buy that Edward doesn't hear them moaning when he's not looking directly at them? You know, if you want to make a porn parody, then make a damn porn parody! Mercifully, the following day, after more padding scenes, we finally get to the battle scenes between the colons and the noobs who are neither counting nor Johnny Depp clones. Except they don't have the budget for that, so they start doing planking? And they certainly don't have the money to do any werewolves at all, not even sending a guy to the damn costume shop.
Jacob just arrived. He's marking his territory.
We're still going. Anybody still going?
Did they even have a script for this? This seriously feels like they just shot whatever the hell they felt like on the day and then just edited it together. Because I seriously can't believe that someone would think up this anatomy and then actually commit it to paper so it could be filmed. Do we make a gag about Bella standing around doing nothing? Nope, they'll just let that giant missed opportunity sail by. Say, how much funnier would it be if when Bella slashed her arm it didn't get their attention, so she slashed the other arm? No. What about her repeatedly stabbing herself in the gut? Well, clearly you don't get the great sense of humour of Craig Moss. What does get their attention is Bella eating Jacob's graduation cake, and do I even have to say it? For some reason the smell attracts them long enough for Edward to kill them both.
Oh, Jesus. Oh my God, that's really bad. Oh, so bad it smells like coyote carbs with melted Gruyere that's been left on the side of the highway for 9 months. So bad it smells like you ate a llama's dump after just...
Okay, yeah, I know.
You know when this wasn't funny? When you did earlier in the scene where she explained what it would smell like, with the exact same jokes. You couldn't think up new similes? Are you that bereft of thought? And then the Volturi arrive, except they're now all played by little kids, several of which belong to Craig Moss himself, so luckily he doesn't get his own kids to swear. Aren't they adorable? Makes me think of Vampires Suck, where they again did this exact same joke. And if you don't know who the Volturi are, then don't worry. The movie already assumes that you're familiar with Twilight lore, so why bother to explain anything? As they celebrate their victory, Jacob learns Bella and Edward are getting married and gets so mad that he threatens to kill himself if they don't call it off. But then Jacob ends up getting in a fight with a ZMZ reporter and accidentally stabs himself and he dies. Laugh? This is followed by the only scenes that have anything to do with Breaking Dawn, and just like Seltzerberg before them, it of course doesn't actually parody the then unreleased Part 1, but scenes from the trailer for it, like her having a bogey hang from her nose during the wedding, or a sex scene which isn't nearly as humorous as the actual bed-breaking scene. Oh, and it's not pregnancy pains, she's got the shits, which is this film's big trailer moment. Sigh. But if you thought this defilement of cinema was over, you thought wrong. We're only 68 minutes into this 78-minute movie, and boy does it feel so much longer. Not content with barely scraping feature length, the film pads itself with, I'm not making this up, footage of twihards doing reaction videos to the trailer for Eclipse. Such reaction videos are always stupid, but that's not what this is saying, which is, ha ha ha, look at these freaks. You look at the Naked Gun, and you could tell the Zuckers knew the tropes of the detective genre they were spoofing and had affinity for it, and kept the spoof good-natured. This, on the other hand, is spiteful and poisonous, especially when they specifically turn to clips of one user, but also I wonder if the filmmakers actually asked these people permission to use their clips, which they likely didn't tell them the context of. But mostly this underlines that instead of watching this wretched movie and paying for the privilege, you could have instead gone to YouTube for free and watched parodies of Twilight, which are smarter and funnier than a single frame of this rubbish. And it's still not over because the credits themselves are paired with outtakes for every single cast member, be they alternate takes or actual flubs, which you'll be greatly unsurprised to hear are just as unfunny as the stuff that actually made it into the film in the first place. And if you sit all the way through to the end, you get the scene of Roland farting at the start. Not an extra scene, just the same one from a different angle. Given the way he's repeatedly saying I'm sorry, I'm guessing this is the filmmaker's way of apologising. But it's certainly going to take a hell of a lot more than that for me to forgive them for creating this blight on humanity. Breaking Wind Part 1 is one of the worst spoof movies ever made, and definitely one of the worst comedies in general too. It has nothing to say about its topic, which it hates the point of being dismissive. All the jokes are below the belt, and if they thought this was at all edgy or adult, then they should be downright ashamed of themselves. In addition, the terrible direction and acting oversell every single repetitive joke to the point where it becomes almost unbearable. Craig Moss needs to stay away from doing any more of these spoof movies because he's frankly so abysmal that the art of comedy needs to file a restraining order. And really, if you want to laugh at Twilight, go watch the first, second and fifth films, since they're pretty much unintentional comedies anyway. All watching this does is reward the filmmakers' lack of effort and encourage them further. Pray they don't make a part 2. Or to put it in terms this movie frankly deserves, I'm Matthew Buck, beating down bad movies everywhere.